Back in 2006, Maxime Bernier was a rising star in the Conservative Party. He was a lawyer, a business executive, a French-speaking Quebecer. His philosophy fit perfectly with the newly branded Conservatives, a believer in small government, focused on individual rights, champion of small business, all that stuff. And when he ran in the federal election, he actually won 67% of the vote in his riding, more than any other Conservative MP east of Manitoba. He calls himself an Albertan from Quebec, and his first job was heading up Industry Canada, and then one of the most high-profile gigs in the government, Minister of Foreign Affairs. But then he ran himself into a bit of a trouble. Public comments he made about the governor of Kandahar landed him in diplomatic hot water.
Is it the right person at the right place at the right time? And President Karzai will have to answer that question.
And then he famously left classified documents for 4 weeks at the home of a girlfriend who had ties to the Hells Angels.
I was only made aware of rumors regarding her past last April.
A scandal that earned him the nickname Mad Max, and it cost him his job in cabinet.
This is a serious error. The minister has accepted his responsibilities in offering to resign.
Please welcome the Honourable Maxime Bernier.
Thanks so much.
How are you? Go to your website. Right on the website, you have this mission statement. It says, if we want conservative principles to win the battle, we have to defend them openly with passion.
With passion.
And with?
And with vision.
That's right. Yeah. And conviction.
Conviction and vision.
What's the battle?
It's a battle of ideas. I'm in politics for what I believe in. And it's a position, it's a privilege for a person to be a member of parliament.
And good afternoon, bienvenue dans la zone de la guerre alors que nous sommes en transition à la grandeur. Je m'appelle Anne Vandersteel et voici Steel News. Nope, we're not going to do this whole show in French today because I know most of you don't speak French. I fortunately took it for a long time in school and I still try to practice it whenever I can. So I always get excited when I have an opportunity to do a little bit of practice, but we won't put you through those paces today. I want to welcome you to the war zone as we transition to greatness. I am Anne Vandersteel, as I said. This is my show, Steel News, and our focus today begins with a deep dive into one of Canada's most intriguing political movements, the People's Party of Canada, founded in 2018 by Maxime Bernier, a former member of Parliament and a cabinet member with the Conservative Party of Canada. His PPC party, the Political Party of Canada, is carving out a niche for itself as a populist, libertarian, and conservative alternative in Canadian politics. Sort of sounds like MAGA a little bit, doesn't it? Their core principles: freedom and individual responsibility, fiscal conservatism, immigration reform, Canadian sovereignty, free speech, and of course, their outright challenge to the globalist climate policies strike a chord with Canadians disillusioned by mainstream parties. The PPC represents a growing voice for those seeking change outside traditional political establishment. But today, we're going to take the conversation beyond Canadian borders. We're going to examine Canada's relationship with the United States, compare its historical ties with the UK. We're going to unpack something I've talked a lot about, the Declaration of North America, and what it signals for energy policy, border security, and Canadian sovereignty. We'll also address the growing concerns over China's influence in Canada from the alleged police stations, which Michael Yan, my good colleague at Operation Burning Edge, and Misako Ganaha, the famed Japanese war correspondent, have also witnessed in Canada, and those ties to the economic investments in Canada. And as we're watching our fellow Americans lose billions and memories in these Southern California fires and the wildfires which have devastated the Canadian landscape, we're going to explore what the crisis means for their country's resilience and autonomy. Lastly, Donald Trump's recent suggestion to make Canada the 51st United States state has sparked heated debate. I'd like to find out from Maxime where he stands on this very provocative idea and how does Israel's geopolitical role also play into the complex puzzle. So this is a packed program and we're just getting started. But first, I want to remind you all of a few of my sponsors that make this show very possible for you. And if I can turn your attention to vandersteelhealth.com over here, I think this is an important solution to my staying healthy. I've got to actually bring it up on the stage here. I apologize. I thought I had all this ready. I don't know where it went. Well, it's not going to come up. You know what? We're going to skip it then because I want to bring Maxine in and we'll come to that at the end of the show. Maxime, it's great to see you. You know, fortunately for you, you got to skip the commercials, but these are important commercials because gold and health to me are critical in my survival. And I am what I eat, and I survive on what I preach, which is buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Anne. I'm very happy, very pleased to be with you. It's a privilege, and I believe that we'll have a nice conversation.
Yeah, well, we've got a lot. You know, I see you as a obviously you are a very big freedom fighter. I followed your career, and you know, you are very Trump-esque in a lot of ways. I love the fact that you just say literally what's on your mind. You really don't have a filter, which is pretty much the same affliction I have. So I really appreciate your ability just to put it out there. And you aren't afraid to stand up and acknowledge when you've made errors and move on, you know, and say, hey, you know, we made a mistake, but we move on. This is how we learn. And this is how we build trust when we admit what we've done, as opposed to the regime that's sitting in the in Congress here in our country right now, that most of them are, and now I'm finding out, not even showing up for the inauguration. It does. If that doesn't scream guilt and treason, I don't know what does. So it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Anne. And you're right. That's life. When you did do a mistake, you know, just try to learn from that and go ahead and move on. You know, life it can be tough, can be nice, but when you have very difficult events in your life, I try to do my best to turn that as a positive. And you know, that's what I'm doing in politics, and that's what I'm doing in my personal life also.
Great. Well, let's just take it back for some folks that may not be familiar with you. You left the Conservative Party. You know, a lot of people here in the United States think that MAGA should have its own party and that the Republican Party is not worth overhauling because it's just so consumed with what we call Republicans in name only, rhinos. So you had a departure from the Conservative Party, and you started. You created a movement basically called the People's Party of Canada, out of the Conservative Party of Canada. Tell us what that transformation was like, and what was the groundswell with the people? Was it the people that pushed you into this, or do you decide to do this on your own?
Yeah, thank you for asking. First, I must say that I'm not a career politician. I was working, and I did work 19 years in the financial sector in Montreal and Toronto, with a bank and insurance corporation. So I decided to jump into politics in 2006 when Stephen Harper, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada at that time, did ask me to run. And when I decided to run, it was, like you just said in your presentation, for a smaller government, more provincial autonomy to our provinces, a very small government that will lower taxes. And, you know, I believe, and I still believe in individuals' freedom, no subsidies to big corporation, flat tax, and all these bold reforms. So I was a conservative for 12 years, and we decided, I did run for the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada in 2017, 2018. When Stephen Harper didn't win the election in 2015, he decided to resign. We had a leadership contest. And, you know, I was not the favorite in the beginning of that leadership contest. We were about 13 candidates, but I was telling the truth. You know, I wanted more freedom, less government, more real free markets, and ending, you know, these crony capitalism. And I was speaking like that, and I was able, with our ideas, to finish with 49% of the vote. I didn't win with 49%. And I tried to work with the new leader elected at that time, Andrew Scheer, for 15 months. And actually, I had a very honest conversation with him after 15 months. I wanted him to take some of our ideas with smaller government, lower taxes, and
Sure.
you know, ending climate change hysteria and all that. And he told me, Maxime, I'm running to be the Prime Minister of Canada. Your ideas are not popular with the population, and we won't take any of your ideas for the next electoral campaign, the electoral campaign on 2019. So yes, with all, you know, people who supported me, They told me you cannot stay in that party. And we used the platform that we had based, like you said, on 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. And we built our policies based on that. And we created in 2018 the People's Party. Our first election, it was a tough one. We had only 1.6% of the vote. The second election, 5% of the vote. We almost triple our score from 2019. And the next election in Canada will be this year in 2025, maybe this spring or this fall. And if we double our score, that would be great. But yes, we are speaking about issues that the mainstream establishment politicians don't want to speak about, like, withdraw from Paris Accord and all that.
Oh, listen, if you really are the Trump of Canada, because you're using the same talking points that he's been doing. And in fact, we withdrew from the Paris Accord, as you know, which I know made a lot of people furious around the world, mostly the leaders, because, they obviously depend on the money from the United States, like the rest of the world has depended on the money out of the United States taxpayer, just to fund the interest for the Federal Reserve, which is really the bank for the world, right? It's that is the cabal's piggy bank, and we are the slave labor. And unfortunately, so is your country, and so are other countries in the Western banking system. So when we look at trying to shift out of this, the relationship that Canada has had with the United States has always been very, very friendly. You've come to our aid and rescue before. President Trump, clearly wants to reestablish a good relationship, but he is shifting his rhetoric now. We're looking at abandoning the personal income tax and the IRS potentially in lieu of going back to what we used to be, which was a country that traded with everybody and used tariffs to fund our revenue stream. And we were very wealthy in the late 1800s. We had more money in our coffers than we knew what to do with. Very wealthy nation because of tariffs. I'd like to play this. This is President Trump on his position on tariffs. And then I want to get your feedback on this.
Mr. President, Susan Lee from Fox Business. Did you reject a one-on-one meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau?
Yeah, I did.
Why?
Because his tariffs are too high and he doesn't seem to want to move, and I've told him forget about it. And frankly, we're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much. And I love Canada, by the way.
Prime Minister Trudeau talking about you last night?
Well, he's two-faced. But, the truth is that I called him out, and I guess he's not very happy about it. We're being taken advantage of on trade. They put out a document. I don't know if you saw it. They didn't want me to see it, but we found it. Perhaps they were trying to show the power they have. It's close to $100 billion a year loss with Canada. We finished the meeting. Really, everybody was happy. I left and it was very friendly. When I got onto the plane, I think that Justin probably didn't know that Air Force One has about 20 televisions. And I see the television, and he's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, push him around. We just shook hands. It was very friendly. He's two-faced. He's giving a news conference about how he will not be pushed around by the United States. And I say, we just shook hands. That he had because he assumed I was in an airplane and I wasn't watching. He's two-faced. He learned that's going to cost a lot of money for the people of Canada. He learned. You can't do that. You can't do that.
So what do you take away from that? I mean, was he too hard on President Trudeau, who's now saying he's going to be stepping down, but we don't have a real target date yet? What do you think?
Oh, he's right about that, and we must admit that President Trump is a very good negotiator. We are not so here in Canada ready for that negotiation. As Trudeau resigned. They will have a leadership contest, the Liberal Party of Canada. They will have their new leader the first week of March, and we may be in election just after that. So, tariffs and negotiation, we must be able to have a good agreement with the U.S. As you said, for the last 200 years. We are good friends, good allies, working together. But President Trump has a point when he said that, Canada now is a threat to the national security of the U.S., and also a threat to our own national security here in Canada. Why? Because of all that, open borders policy, mass immigration. And you must know, but last year at the border, the American administration arrested last year about 400 terror suspects coming from Canada. 80% were coming from Canada. And last year, you stopped about 100,000 illegals crossing the border from Canada to the US. So we must control our borders. We must end mass immigration. We must have a moratorium on immigration. We must deport all our illegals. And if we do that, I think it will be easier to have a good deal with President Trump. But at the same time, he's right by we must invest also in our own defense. They are asking to spend 2% of our GDP in our defense. We are spending or investing only about 1.2%. So we need to fix that. We need to be serious about security of our borders for Canadians and for also Americans. So if we do that, we will be able to have a nice conversation with President Trump.
I agree. And then you look at what Joe Biden has done, including Trudeau and the former Mexican president Obrador, with the signing of this document, the Declaration of North America. This has been, I've studied and talked about this, considering the work I've done going to Panama and covering the illegal weaponized human migration funded by the United States predominantly, because we are the biggest contributor to the United Nations. Next closest country is Germany. We outspend Germany by 17-1. And then again, you look at this document that, the three presidents in North America signed, basically destroying the sovereignty of every country, because they're now considering us one region. And it's the same rhetoric. It's always diversity, equity, inclusion, climate change, environment, competitiveness, migration, development, health, and regional security. And I caution everybody, because when you read this document, they look like they're doing good things, because they're talking about making partnerships with Indigenous people to promote innovative and sustainable solutions. But what we've seen, Maxime, down in Panama specifically, is the destruction of the Indigenous way of life, which was an agricultural and farming community along the rivers down there. And they are now massive traffickers of people. So has this document played, would you credit something like this as to the mass weaponized human migration you've seen in your country? Because from where we're sitting, China has sort of taken over Western Canada, along with India.
Yeah, actually, you have a point there. Our two mainstream political parties, the conservative, I call them the so-called conservative, or the conservative in name only, like what you have in the US with the Republican, the conservative and the Liberal Party of Canada. They are okay with the UN compact on migration. For them, it's okay to have migration in our country. For Trudeau, everyone can be a citizen of Canada. For me, it's a privilege. We must control our borders. We are not. And yes, all that ideas coming from the UN. UN is a dysfunctional organization, a socialist organization, and our platform is very clear. I'm not a globalist, and like President Trump, I'm fighting for my people, for Canadians, and I want to put our country first. That's not a slogan. That's the reality. Ending the relationship with the World Health Organization. We saw what they did during COVID-19. I was the only leader who was fighting at that time in Canada at the federal level for freedom of speech, for also freedom of choice, and ending all these mandates and draconian measures. And I went in jail for that. I was arrested, handcuffed, and put in jail for 12 hours because I was speaking in a park in Manitoba for freedoms. So all the thing coming from the UN, I don't like it. And, Canada under a PPC government want to fund these socialist and globalist initiatives.
Will the Canadians, will your government, if the PPC takes control, will they defund and exit the United Nations? Because I'm calling for that here in the United States. If we pull out and exit the UN and stop funding, weaponized human migration from where I'm sitting ends, number one. And number two, the UN collapses, because they are nothing without the money that we send over there.
Yeah, defund, yes. We will still be part of the UN as a nation, but we won't participate in their pet projects. But actually, we can save a lot of money. As you know, in our country, we have a huge deficit and a huge debt, and we can save a lot of money by, just defund the UN. And also, our position is to end foreign aid. Our country is spending about $10 billion in foreign aid. We will bring back that money home here in Canada to help Canadians. So yeah, we are fighting for our country, not for the UN, not for the globalists.
Good. All right. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Let's talk a little bit about the presence of China in your country. We have, by all estimations, and General Flynn has even put a number to this, 120,000 members of the People's Liberation Army in our country right now that are here illegally. We did have some Chinese police stations for a bit. They were exposed, and we got rid of them. So we think, I don't know. San Francisco is a question mark. They could be undercover Chinese police stations there. I really don't know. They did certainly roll out the red carpet when Xi Jinping showed up in San Francisco, and they managed to clean up the city from all of their defecation piles from the homeless population, which is overtaking San Francisco, frankly, California. What's left of it that's not burning down at the moment, which is just such a tragedy. Are you concerned about your national security with such a massive influx of Chinese in your country?
Absolutely. And also the RCMP here in Canada, our own police, said a couple of months ago that we have two Chinese police stations in Canada, one in my own province in Quebec and another one in Ontario. And they told us that they are doing investigation. But you know what? We didn't know what is happening. After a couple of months, we try to have answer and what is happening. We don't know. They're not transparent about that. But absolutely, it's illegal, and it's Canada is a sovereign territory, and they don't have the right to do that. They don't have the right to intimidate our citizens, and they're doing that. But also worse than that, our Secret Service told us that there's some members of Parliament in the Conservative Party of Canada and in the Liberal Party of Canada elected in Parliament who are not loyal to our country. They're loyal to their country of origin, China or India. We must know. And I was asking, and I did that for a long time, asking to have the names of these people. And Trudeau doesn't want to tell us. And Poilievre said, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, maybe the next prime minister, said that he doesn't want to have a briefing by the Secret Service to know who are these people in his own political party in Parliament, because he doesn't want to know, because if he knew it, he will have to act, and he doesn't want to act on that. So all these people who are not loyal to our country must not be in our Parliament.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the conflict and the concerns that are coming out of you today absolutely mirror what we see happening in our country, which I want to tie this back then to the relationship between the United States and the UK and Canada and the UK. How would you categorize their similarities and their differences, or are they really in parallel?
No, that's an historical and very important relationship between us and the US and the UK. It's very sad what is happening in the UK right now. They did promote the multiculturalism, and they had a policy of open borders, and still. And now, the UK is not the same country. If you look back the last 25 years. And same thing in France, as you know, I'm speaking French. I'm from the French part of the Canada, Quebec. And in France, there's no go zone. But the good news, you have in UK Nigel Farage, who is, the populist party over there. If you look at his platform, he has the same kind of platform than us and President Trump. He had 15% of the vote. He was able to elect 6 MPs at the next election. And in France, you have Marine Le Pen. She may be the next president. And, all these leaders like Trump and myself, we want to end mass immigration and start mass deportation. That's right. Important for the social fabric of our countries. We need to be serious about that. And here in Canada, add to that, we had the Multiculturalism Act. We are promoting these foreigners who are coming to our country. We are not telling them, you must integrate into our society. We are telling them, keep your culture, keep your values, and you can live in ghettos here in Canada. we must repeal that legislation. So yes, we must have very good relationship with France, UK, and the US. But right now, the policy that we have, it's not looking like that.
No, it doesn't. And it's the same policy that we've, unfortunately, I call it war. We have been, and we are being attacked by our own federal government and the policies of ignoring our own constitution. They have basically taken our de jure, our republic constitution, the constitution for the United States, and supplanted it with their corporate version, the constitution of the United States. They're different, and they have different implications because with that came in the U.S. code, and the U.S. code is for corporate bylaws, and we've been run as a corporation for quite some time here, over 150 years. That being said, President Trump has been very, shall we say, hard on Canada as of late, and he's made some statements that have gotten people in this country going, what in the world? Because he has been, and Steve Bannon as well, have gone around and they've said every country should stand up and make their country great again. He goes to India and says it. He goes to Saudi Arabia, says it. He's in Israel. He's in Italy. Wherever he is, he says your country, your leadership should be putting your country first. And I think that's really, I don't know if you're a reader of Ayn Rand. She wrote Atlas Shrugged. Yeah. So Ayn Rand has a book called The Virtue of Selfishness. And it's not about being a jerk and stepping over dead bodies. It's literally saying, put the oxygen mask on you first before you put it on your neighbor. Because if you're not doing well, how are you going to help the guy next to you, right? Make yourself great. Take care of them. Anyhow, you get the point. So he's made some sort of overtures about Canada becoming part of the U.S. I want to play a clip on this because I find it actually rather entertaining that he's actually gone into this direction and made these comments. Steve Doocy commented on here on Fox News recently.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
It was a good joke at that time. But we must understand President Trump. He's having fun about it. But really, and are you serious about that? Because actually in Canada, we are 40 million people, like in California. And actually, they did a poll in Canada just before your presidential election. And that's very devastating for President Trump. 65% of Canadians said that they like Harris and they would have voted for Harris. So are you sure that President Trump wants a new California that will vote Democrat in US? I'm not sure about that. So that's why, for me, it's still a joke, but it's very effective for President Trump because it's a way to destabilize Canada. And here in Canada, you have a lot of all these establishment politicians are, very scary about that. And for me, I always put my country first, and I'm pretty sure that President Trump is understanding that, is doing that in his own country. But yes, we have a lot of challenges with our free trade agreement. Let's address that. But Trudeau, he did a press conference and he said, we will invest, a couple of $1 million to secure our border. But that's not enough. We need to stop that mass immigration. It's important. We need also, I know that President Trump had Wisconsin and all these swing states in the US in his favor. In Wisconsin, you have dairy producers and they want to be able to export their milk in Canada. But at the last free trade agreement, the last negotiation, when Trump was president, Trudeau said no, the Conservatives said no, they wanted to protect a cartel. In Canada, we have a dairy cartel. They are fixing the price, fixing the production. Canadian consumers are paying twice the price for their milk if you compare that with the US. So, and President Trump wanted to export and to open that and having a real free trade. And Trudeau and Poilievre said no. So now it's on the table. If you want to have a good deal, I strongly believe that you must open that and open real free trade in the dairy, poultry, and eggs products to our country. That will be good for our consumers. They will have good quality products, but at a very cheap price.
Yeah, well, it's not too dissimilar to what happens here in the pharmaceutical business, right? And a lot of Americans buy their prescription pharmaceuticals from Canada because they can get it for a fraction of the price of what we pay here. And again, it's all that corporate fraud with the insurance companies. It's just, it's this circle of people and the money just moves through that same circle. And we're on the outside throwing money in that circle, but it never comes back to us. That's the difference here. Well, that's good. I feel strongly Canada should not be the 51st state for the reasons you mentioned. I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to bring a bunch of socialists like California in the country. We can't even wake those people up. I think the fires burning down and the lack of their $770 they've been offered is really quite eye-opening, because not too dissimilarly and sadly as what happened in North Carolina with that tragedy, which is still unfolding, yet we still send money overseas. As far as your relationship, not yours personally, but the Canadian relationship with Israel, this has been a really hot topic here in our country because, people it's very polarizing. The rhetoric around being an anti-Semite, if you say you don't stand with Israel, is kind of a two-pronged problem. One is Israel, to me, is more than just the country. It is the government. Like, we have a terrible government here in our country. You have a bad government in your country, or leadership anyway. Yeah. And Israel has a bad government. So you have to say the Israeli government, because I believe that the people of Israel, majoritively the biblical Hebrews, are good. And I stand with them, and I hope they stand with Americans that are fighting this monolithic bureaucracy. How would you define and characterize the relationship with Canada and Israel today, and what you think it should be, and how would you redefine it if you were the president?
Yeah, I will, like I said, put Canadian first, not Israeli, not Palestinians. We have a good relationship with them, but we must understand that we cannot change what is happening in Middle East. We are a very small country. We don't have a lot of influence. And since Trudeau, everybody is laughing at us. So the way to change what is happening in Middle East, that's the US. You have the key for that, and we are not. So what is happening in our country right now with mass immigrations? We are people who are coming here and are bringing their internal conflict from their country of origin. We don't want that. So we want to be good friend with Israel, and we want to be good friend also with people living in Ukraine. We are promoting peace and prosperity. That's why, for example, I was the only national leader in Canada who said that our enemy is not Putin, our enemy is our own government here in Canada. Look what they did to us. They did not respect our constitution during COVID-19. They were imposing on us, curfew, stay-at-home orders, and all that. And our government is not working in our best interest. So that war in Ukraine, where the federal government spent about $10 billion they gave that to the Ukraine. I was against that. I'm very pleased that President Trump is speaking about a peace over there. And what is happening in Middle East, we have the same position. We must promote peace and prosperity. And I understand that the only democracy in the region, and it's Israel. I was there when I was the Foreign Affairs Minister. I had a very good visit over there. But actually, the reality is the position that our country will take on Israel won't change anything. It's all in the hands of President Trump and the U.S.
You've been criticized as a far-right extremist. As of I'm on the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL's hate in the sunshine list as being an anti-Semite and far-right domestic extremist. I was actually put on the domestic terror list by our government for 2 years after January 6th. I presume for being at the Capitol, although my Freedom of Information Act request has never rendered a decision. They keep telling me my name is still under investigation, whatever that means. I don't really care. It did make it quite interesting traveling. I got to second base regularly with the TSA as I got patted down about 4 to 6 times a week for 2 years. So that was always kind of interesting. But, these COVID lockdowns, the pandemic brought a lot of draconian measures. As you said, you were actually arrested in 2021 for violating the public health orders. Would you if you were a president of Canada, how would you handle another, quotes, pandemic, AKA plandemic? Would you put people through lockdowns and masking and force vaccination, or how would you facilitate?
Absolutely not. First of all, I won't participate in the World Health Organization. What they I'm pretty sure they think that they manage a pandemic, and I will respect individual freedom. I will ask people to speak with their doctors. And they are working for a new pandemic. It's very sad that they try to use fear and propaganda to control the population. They did that in Canada. That was very efficient. It was so efficient that if you were a politician in the opposition in Canada during the COVID hysteria, you saw in the polls that about 65% of the population were okay in line with these draconian measures because fear and propaganda was very efficient, and these politicians wanted to have the support of the majority. They were silent. So I will do the opposite. And I'm fighting for freedom. I believe in freedom. I believe in free markets. I believe in people. I don't believe in a big fat government that will tell you what to do. So my reaction would have been the opposite of what they did to us here in Canada and in other countries.
Good. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear that because again, if we're challenged in this, I'm hoping President Trump this time will take a completely different position. Something tells me he was really cornered last time, and I know that they were trying to use the lockdowns to really cripple the economy and have Hillary come in for 4 years and just put the death nail into the coffin. I do believe Kash Patel was tasked to get the economy reopened, but Operation Warp Speed was a colossal failure in so many levels because we have so many injured people and people who died. Canada was really, I mean, you lost a lot of doctors. I've lost count. It was well over 100 doctors that were forced to take the shots that died. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. A lot of people die from that so-called vaccine. And now the sad thing is we are still promoting that vaccine here in this country. And actually, we must end that. That vaccine is dangerous for kids. But the narrative, the mainstream narrative is still the same one that they use during COVID-19, safe and effective. And 4 years after that, we know that it was not true. We know that that vaccine was not safe and effective, and they are still promoting that. And I'm still fighting against that.
You've used social media frequently to make bold and controversial statements, which I love. I'm all about it, Maxime. So just keep going. Your critics are accusing you, of course, of stoking division or engaging in what they call culture wars. Well, I guess we are in a culture war, but it's really the woke culture that is being crafted and weaponized through the intelligence community. I want to talk to you a little bit about that angle here, because the intelligence community, from where I'm sitting, has really stoked, taken the narrative coming out of the WEF and the Committee of 300, the global elite, and they have weaponized it using big pharma. Now they're weaponizing it using the medical freedom space. Frankly, there's, Canadian companies that are very big in the medical freedom space here that, frankly, I believe have capitalized using what I call fear porn, right? Instead of using a bullhorn like you do on social media, they use their bullhorn with fear porn, and they lead with big names to push products that, frankly, you could buy for a fraction of the price on the open market. So how do you see this? Because here in the United States, propaganda with the government is legal under the Smith Modernization Act. How would you fix that in Canada so that we can kind of level the playing field and get the real truth out while we have these discussions openly that unbrainwash the people?
Yeah, it's happening in our country, like it's happening in your country. You're very lucky to have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that will tackle that with Maha, and I'm pretty sure that it will be successful. The way to deal with that is the free markets. Everything must be transparent. Now we have Health Canada here who are listening. They are listening to the big pharma, and there's some products that were very useful to fight COVID-19. They were illegal in our country. So let's open the doors. Let's having a real discussion in Canada about all these big pharma, what they're doing in our country. We need to have a parliamentary commission that will question that. Now, the population don't know what is happening. They don't know in details. So that's why we need to be out there. We need to tell the truth based on facts. And now with these big pharma still promoting that vaccine, still promoting and also not promoting our civil servants and bureaucrats are not promoting, other treatments that can be very good against cancer or, COVID-19. We need to have a revolution like the one I hope so will start in the US with Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And I hope that win, that freedom win, will come to Canada. But you can count on me. I'm always speaking about that.
I know, and that's why I was excited to have you on the show today. Are you going to go to the inauguration? They've just now moved the inauguration indoors due to weather. I believe it's going to be very cold, and there's a lot of national security threat concerns right now around this particular inauguration for the obvious reason. They've tried to kill President Trump twice now. But do you think you'll make it down here, or will you extend a hand to President Trump to come and meet with you in Canada and perhaps engage through Parliament with you at his side to have those discussions?
Yeah, that would be great. I won't be able to be in Washington, but for sure I will watch that. And it's a beginning for you in US and for us in the Western world. A big revolution, step by step. President Trump he won't do everything that he said. He won't be able to do that. But if he's able to do maybe only 20%, that's a big revolution. And I'm very pleased. I'm looking at what is happening. And actually, President Trump is helping me here in Canada because, as you may know, and I've been canceled by the mainstream media, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. They don't want to speak about us, about our ideas, because they know if we have more visibility, our support would grow faster. But because of President Trump, they have to speak about the radical gender ideology, the fact that, a boy cannot be a girl and a girl cannot be a boy. There's only two sexes. They are speaking about that in our mainstream media without saying that the People's Party is the only party that is speaking and fighting for that. But at least these ideas are now in our mainstream media because of President Trump. So,
whoops. We might have lost a connection. He seems to have frozen. Let me see. Did we lose the internet? We might have. I don't know if Maxime can hear me. We might have lost the internet. I'm not sure. It doesn't tell me on my end. I think my internet connection is stable, but they may have cut Maxime off, and I'm so sorry about that. I'm not sure if he can hear me or not. But we were getting ready to wrap this interview anyway, and I'm going to just summarize it with this. I think, first of all, this interview to me has been extraordinary. When I look at the similarities and parallels, I really feel like, as if to coin a phrase from the World Economic Forum, we are in lockstep with Canada, except for the fact that they are far more brainwashed into socialism and really truly believe that the government owes them the living and owes them everything. And here in the United States, that is not the foundation of our country. As he was just espousing, the free markets are remarkable. They take care of every single problem. In fact, I see him coming in right now. Let me see if I can grab him. There you go, Maxime. We lost you for a second. I thought maybe the Canadian internet cut you off.
It's technology. When you tell the truth, there's risk.
I know. I'm used to it. We had a drone over our house, literally over our house the other day when I walked outside, and it was a big drone. And I said to my husband, I said, let's see what's going on here. So we waited, and we said, let's get in the car and drive around. We got in the car, and that thing was following us. I kid you not. It absolutely followed us. It was crazy. And then we came back and went in the garage, and I waited for about an hour, and it finally went away. It was very strange. So yeah, there's risk.
Yeah. So I was saying that, the fact that President Trump is elected, the freedom ideas will spread not only in the US, but through Canada also.
Do you think we're going to see a worldwide revolution? I mean, I look at the UK. They're somewhat in civil war at the moment. The Brazilians have been sort of rising up. I mean, and Milei getting elected, and Bukele, going after his own government. Do you think we're seeing this? Is it going to happen this time, once and for all? We're going to throw tyranny out the door?
Yes, but it's a question of time. Like I said, the truth will always prevail. We will win. The common sense will win. It's a question of time, but it won't happen in 1 year or 2 years. It may be a little bit longer than that, but yes, I believe so.
It's truly exciting. It's remarkable. And again, I look at I look to Ayn Rand and some of the comments and ideas she had in philosophy, and she was spot on about everything. And at some point, we've all joked about finding Galt's Gulch and trying to escape because the moochers are going to be and the looters are coming after the producers, and so the producers are about ready to exit the society and go and take care of themselves because it's gotten to be so insane. But I feel like we're going to stop that this time. And I think the people are waking up. Maxime, I have really appreciated your time today. You've been very generous and very gracious. And I will continue to follow your career. Is there anything you'd like to leave? Parting thoughts?
Thank you, Anne. I'm very pleased to be with you. And so let's do that again, maybe just before the election. Actually, I want to say to people, if they want to know more about the People's Party and our policy, I know that if you're in the US, you cannot support us or vote for us, but you can be sure that, when people are saying that Bernier is the Canadian Trump, for me, I'm okay with that. We may not agree on everything that President Trump is saying, but, on the big issues, it's important to be together, fighting the globalists, and we are doing that. They can know more about me at peoplespartyofcanada.ca.
That's right. It's on X. I have your X profile up for the People's Party of Canada. Your X profile is in the description box and the links in the description box below. It's at Maxime Bernier. So please follow him on X. He's got a great X feed, by the way. I absolutely love reading your feed. So I'm thrilled to be able to have you on the show today. And Maxime, God bless you. Keep fighting. You have friends down here in the States that'll come to your aid at any time. Call me. I'll be there. And people know I show up. I go all over the place, out of the country, in the country. I show up. So I appreciate you very much.
I will. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, Anne.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. I was really looking forward to this interview. So it was great to get a chance to actually speak with him personally, face to face, bring you all along as well. And again, we are looking at a massive change agent in President Trump, but frankly, the change agents are you. And we have got to stand behind him. But more importantly, he needs to do what we ask. And so I believe that majority of all the policies President Trump is looking at, including removal of the income tax and going back to a tariff-based system, that is massive in the implications of what it's going to do to these central banks and the control that they've had on us. Because again, these central banks are coming out of the city of London, and that has had control. The Western banking cabal has had control over the Western civilization, Europe, United States, North America, including Canada and Mexico. We have got to get out of that. And that's why when you see countries like El Salvador wipe their debt away, they fortunately have a volcano that produces energy. So they have Bitcoin mines, and they've made Bitcoin one of their national currencies. So they're able to, wipe away their national debt. Guess what, folks? We can do the same. And we will do the same. This is what the transition to greatness is going to be about. This $36 trillion in debt under the current administration and the current plan of central banking is going to destroy our country. But we're going to destroy the destroyers. And we're going to do it by getting sound money back. And just remember, in our own ground, we have $200 trillion of natural resources, including oil and gold and silver and lithium and copper and so on. And so, all these natural resources, rare earth minerals, all this stuff is very valuable. Those are the assets that are going to back our currency. It's not just going to be the slave labor of you and me. It is going to be that. And when you liberate the people of our country and we are not paying income tax anymore, guarantee you we are going to see an incredible uptick in our quality of life. And then again, look at how we'll be able to trade. You hear Maxime talking about, wanting to break the milk cartel, the dairy cartel in Canada. It's the same thing as the pharmaceutical cartel here. We are paying thousands of dollars for prescription medications. Most people shouldn't even be on them. Frankly, you all should be using God's gifts on the planet to manage your health care. And this is, a lot of the reasons why I talk about things like my superfoods. You guys think I'm crazy, but I'm here to tell you I'm not crazy. You want to be using superfoods. And why do you want to use superfoods? Well, because superfoods is going to keep you healthy. I'm going to show you this right now because I've got to give a shout out to the people that make this show possible, but they also make my healthcare possible. Vandersteelhealth.com, links in the description box below if you're on Rumble. Vandersteelhealth.com. This is an incredible company, been around 30 years. They have a plethora of products in healthcare. Everything is organic, non-GMO, all made here in the United States of America. Nothing comes from outside. I've been a customer of these guys for 4 years myself. I use the products every single day. I harp about these superfood smoothies, but not only do they just really give you lots of energy, they are truly a meal replacement. I use it right when I come in from my run, and it keeps me going. It's part of sort of the fast of leaning up in the morning, getting your metabolism going without putting a bunch of heavy stuff in there, but it gives you a lot of brain food. Superfoods is at vandersteelhealth.com. Also want to remind you all, if you are in the market for a protection and a hedge against the inflation, gold and silver have always been that hedge. And I trust these folks over here at Augusta Precious Metals. I'm using them. They can be reached at 888-782-9064. This is really a strategic play. If you have money in an IRA and you want to turn that money into gold, some people have real estate in IRAs, some people have stocks and bonds in IRAs. You can also have gold in an IRA. Go to Augusta Precious Metals. And if you click the link in my description box below, it will take you directly to this website where you can actually get a free consultation. They will spend, 4, 5, 6 Zoom calls with you. There's no pressure. It's totally educational. They want you to feel very comfortable in this trade opportunity to move into gold and silver and have precious metals in your bank. So by all means, look at this as this is basically Money Magazine's best rated gold IRA company. I highly, highly, highly recommend Augusta Precious Metals. So get on over there, check them out, 888-782-7864. And lastly, if you aren't aware of this, we're looking at J6 hostages, political hostages getting out of prison on Monday. There should be commutations and pardons. I am in standby mode right now, working with Suzanne Monk. Trennis Evans has been very valuable in all this. David Summerall with Stop Hate. But I'm working with Suzanne. She is putting together a list of people that are in Florida. I'm aware of a lot of political prisoners in various prisons here in Florida. I will be at one of those prisons with a passenger van, picking up people, and we're going to be dispersing cash because they're coming out and they have nothing. Remember this, a lot of these people, when they were arrested and put in prison, they lost their jobs. They lost their places of residence, whether they were renting or owning. Some of them even lost their families because they ended up in divorce. The guilt and shame of all this, the torture, and some actually took their lives. Matthew Perna, for instance. This has been an unbelievable travesty and a complete usurpation of our constitutional right to redress our grievance to the people that are supposed to be working for us. And now we know those people who are supposedly working for us aren't even going to the inauguration because they know what they've done is completely treasonous. So if you can, go to AmericanMadeFoundation.org. If you find it in your heart, AmericanMadeFoundation.org is a nonprofit 501c3. You can donate right here. There's a donate button. And when you get to the donation page, it'll ask you if you would like to contribute to the J6 prisoners, which is the relief fund we're collecting, Operation Burning Edge, hurricane relief efforts in North Carolina, or future events. But I'm asking you all, if you can find it in your heart, to select the J6 prisoner button. Please do, and contribute some money, because I'll be getting funds dispersed from this foundation to bring cash on Monday to put in the hands of these people, so that not only are they greeted by a group of people at the prison, but also they're going to get some cash so that they can get on with their lives and get to where they need to go. They need cash for rent, first-class security, stuff like that. So we have got to help them because, as you know, the government isn't helping anybody but themselves to your pocketbook. So we're going to have to go into ours. Thank God for a tax-free vehicle until Trump gets away, does away with the IRS. We still want to take advantage of the loopholes. So here's a loophole for you to make it very easy for you to help a J6 political prisoner who's now going to be a refugee as they get out of prison. I appreciate all of you today. I appreciate everything you do in terms of standing with our country and visiting with me for this hour. God bless everybody. God bless America. And I hope everybody has a fantastic day. It's Friday, the 17th of January. We are T-3 from President Trump's inauguration. Stay safe out there. Head on a swivel. A lot can happen over the weekend. And trust me, I'm sure these demons have got something planned. But until then, take care of your family, hug your kids, and I'll see you again next week.